Welcome back to this edition of the Renegade Report. I told you one, Coach. I told you it may be recaps, but I got Coach Scott Dameron, Pleasant Supplies of BC Women's Soccer. How you doing, Coach?
I'm doing great. Thanks for bringing me on.
Well, hey, I love the hat. I got to get one of those. That's one of my things. I ask for something every time you guys come, just like one of those step cousins you never see.
I just wear it not to get sunburned.
All right, I got you, Coach. Well, hey, it's a pleasure to see you. Just had a great segment with the ladies. We talked about their transition. We also talked about how great it felt for them to be sophomores and have opportunity to participate at the highest level. We talked about Reagan, how excited she was to be able to compete in a full season, being that she didn't get to participate last season.
Yeah, no, she worked really hard to get back.
Absolutely. So Coach, how did it feel to have such a great year? I consider 11-5 a great season.
Yeah, I just really enjoyed the team that we had. We've been doing this for a long time, and it's always hard work, but it's easier when you really enjoy the people you work with.
Yes.
And that was one of the things I really enjoyed about this year's team we don't get me wrong, we got work done, but they were just really fun to work with. Just good people, fun to be around.
And that's one of the core messages that I remembered from our talk last year was the fact that how, we get in here, we try to talk strategy, we want to talk personnel, but you spent it back to making sure you coached great people and turned them into more than just great players. So, speaking of that, let's talk about some of the players that will be moving on that had that lasting impression on you. Just, I'll give you a few minutes to elaborate and reflect on some of those moments.
Yeah, well, there's several, that are going to continue playing this year, which I think it's just a real testament to the hard work they put in, and so especially in the classroom, the team itself, we won academic awards and academic recognition.
Absolutely.
And so you're an easy kid to recruit when you take care of the classroom because they don't have to worry about you, and so for a lot of those girls that are going on to play, they did well enough in the classroom that it wasn't a worry about like where can I go, can I get into that school, because academically they were overqualified. So then it's just a matter of finding the best fit for you, where you feel comfortable, and things like that. And so, obviously, Cam, she's heading to New Mexico and she's got some connections out there. So that makes her really excited. Reagan had several different opportunities and, now she's ending up in Louisiana, and that kind of, it wasn't expected, but it's become this amazing opportunity that we're really excited for, and I think she's excited about that. I think all in all, I think there's going to be about 5 kids playing in 5 different states next year. So
Wow, and that's big time.
Yeah, it's good.
As former coaches, we hope to get 1, maybe 3. To have 5 of your sophomores moving on and continuing their careers, that's like hitting the golden buzzer.
Yeah, I think sometimes going further away can be a little scary, a little intimidating, but I think it kind of helps when they have friends and teammates that
encourage
if they're comfortable with it, it kind of makes it easier to kind of make that jump as well. Absolutely. And so I think this year especially you saw more of them kind of taking a risk and going for an adventure, so to speak.
Yeah, I agree wholeheartedly. I wanted my son, who just graduated from MP school last week in the Army, to stay and be a driller, tennis player, driller wrestler. Renegade tennis player, renegade wrestler. He was a former driller. But he wanted to go see the world. I was like, hey, son, well, hopefully when you get done, you can come back. You'll still have some eligibility. but just like you talked about, we live in a period of time where kids are not wanting to stick around the house as much as they used to. It used to be one of those phobias where you can't get your kid to leave the house.
Right.
Now we have players that are ready for the world because they have great leadership from the coach's perspective and the great natural connections in those other areas to get them to want to be part of a broader scope of what they do as athletes.
I think it's actually been one of the great things, not just about like our soccer program, but our athletics program and even just our school in general, because we have a bunch of kids that haven't quite figured out, what they want to do, where they want to go. And so it's been a great place to be, to kind of buy yourself time to figure yourself out a little bit, to train and keep improving yourself and bettering yourself. And, if you ask most of them, like if they had any idea that that's what they'd be doing, going off to Louisiana or New Mexico, one's heading to North Carolina, another one's heading to West Virginia. And so I think if you had asked any of them a year ago, that's what they'd be doing.
Yeah.
I don't think that would have been something they had mentioned, but I think just growing a little more, developing as a person, maturing, now they're kind of ready to do these things that maybe they weren't ready to do a couple years ago.
Yes, and you took the words right out of my mouth, because it's about growth, and that comes from having great leadership. And one of the things the ladies talked about was how fun it was as opposed to being stressful. Just like you alluded to, because they took care of everything in the classroom. They didn't have any hang-ups. When coaches came to recruit, they weren't worried about classes and GPA.
Right.
It was just about talent and where do you want to go.
Yeah.
And when you have that opportunity, it makes it a much more pleasant experience. Because I got to be honest with you, I didn't have it like that. I was one of the guys that didn't do as well in the spring. You have all this freedom as a football guy, and I was in the music. I still work in the music realm. I spent a lot of my springs touring and performing, which hurt my grades. And put me in the position to have to go to summer school to take 18 units to get straight A's. And I reflect on my experience and like, dang, I wish I was as smart as these kids now, from a perspective of pouring in that energy into the right direction. It worked out for me, but to hear the ladies have an opportunity to make it such a smooth process is such a rewarding experience for us as former coaches and coaches.
Yes, and I think that's what I'm hoping, going forward, I guess you could say, is I think they've done a great job. Like, we do our part, but they've done a great job building the kind of culture that we like, so the environment that they've created, that we're hoping their teammates kind of see that and
absolutely
know that they can do it too.
All right, so speaking of teammates, we talked about the last group. We haven't really talked about how well you guys did from an individual perspective as far as games. Let's talk about looking forward to the future. Next season, you guys, where did we finish in conference?
We were third.
Third, yeah. So I wanted to say we finished in the top half of the conference. 11-5 is a great record. Thinking about the future, what are some of the things that you're looking forward to tell the incoming freshmen that will be coming in? Not even speaking about from an individual perspective, but just your philosophy and how you got some of these ladies, like you said, that didn't believe in their ability to transition a year later. What's that method that you go into in your philosophy?
Well, I think the biggest thing they learn playing at this level is just consistency, consistency of effort, just being present every day. You have to bring it every day. You can't take days off. And even sometimes at lower levels, you can there's the game, that you kind of circle on the map, like 3 weeks ago or 3 weeks ahead, there's this game, but we got to kind of get through these other games. But at the college level, there's not games like that. Like, you gotta bring it every day, because somebody will get you if you're paying attention to another game. And so I think that's one of the biggest things they learn is just how to compete every day.
Every day. Yeah. Handle what's in front of you instead of focusing on next month, next week, and 3 games later. It's a great philosophy, and I think that's one of the things that helped you guys get that momentum so quickly. Like from last year to this year. What was last year's record, if you can remember offhand? It wasn't.
It was close. It was like 10-8.
Okay. Because I remember seeing the 11 is what stuck out in my head, because I didn't know if we had 11 wins last year. But, it gives you that opportunity to continue to build. You go from 10 wins, you got 11 wins. Next year, 15 wins. Next year, state championship. Just continuing to move forward. But like you said, taking a one day at a time approach to have that philosophy.
Yeah, I mean, in the conference, when we compete more in Southern California, that's where most of the teams we play in our conference are from, and so it's where some of the best soccer in the country is at.
Yes.
And it's more of a challenge, but we actually prefer playing down there because that's how you get better, is playing good teams.
Well, Coach, I got to tell you, just watching the output and the smiles that are on the faces of the ladies that have been part of your process, that everything you've done has resonated with them, and they'll carry that forever. And one of the last messages that I talked to them about was how when I left to my next 4-year experience, I felt like I was coaching up my coaches because my Bakersfield College coaches instilled such leadership in me that I was ready for the world. So, I got faith in the process that you've put before these players, and I'm excited to see what's going to happen next season for you. So any last thoughts that you have before we go to break?
No, I mean, the ones you had on, and even the others that are playing, Cam, Reagan, Jackie, Drew's
Drew.
another one that she's going to be playing in North Carolina next year. And then there's one more that's probably going to be committing in the next week or so. I'm just really proud of them. It's been a real joy, I think, to watch them grow.
Absolutely. I still reflect on the joys of, being associated with my former players that I get to be on social media with and follow them. And now that they're getting married and having kids and retiring from their careers, it makes you feel great knowing you had a small part in that process.
Right.
Right. So Coach, we salute you, and make sure when you get those names of those players who are continuing to transition on, you forward them to Brandon so we can continue to celebrate them on the Renegade Report.
I will for sure.
All right. Well, this is Kenny Calvin. We'll be right back after the break with some recaps right after this. But special thanks to Coach Scott Dameron of BC Women's Soccer. We'll be right back after the break.